What is the most fucked up thing your school did? Suddenly announced they were selling the school at the end of the first year. There was no indication of that before we applied and were admitted, so there was a false representation that they'd be staying open and providing quality education that we expected. Instead, we became the last class in the school before it closed. With each semester, there were fewer and fewer people, no new ones, and it felt lonelier and lonelier. A lot of classes got cut, so we actually had to take some classes at another campus pretty far away. It was annoying. Some people tried to transfer out, but other schools already knew the reason they were doing that was to get out of the situation, not because they actually liked the school they were attempting to go to, so other schools were less open to transfers than you'd think. We tried to file a class action, but due to the difficulty certifying a class, and coming up with a good way to calculate damages, the suit didn't take off. On top of that, the school continued to charge full tuition and knew we had to pay because we couldn't leave. I graduated and never looked back. I don't miss it. In elementary school, once a year they gave us boxes from Canada. You can find anything: letters, candies, toys, etc. etc. Well, it was 2006, Harry Potter was everywhere, so some of us received Harry Potter stickers, toys. One of them even had the book. They took them and burned out them in the yard in front of 206 Yo kids BC. Harry Potter uses magic and magic is satanic, so Harry Potter is satanic. Quiet kid committed suicide because he was bullied constantly by the popular kids. Almost everyone wanted to step in and help him but couldn't because we were scared of the popular kids because they were wealthy and had political connections. Anyway, the school covered up this incident by saying that he had severe mental issues and had drug abuse issues. He did not. He was just a really shy kid. Everyone knew that the rich kids' parents paid off the school to keep quiet and keep the attention away from their kids. My school always missed the point of awareness for stuff. Boy in my school got raped and the school started putting up those sexist posters that blame the girls for the rape. You know, the ones like, "Don't wear revealing clothes, don't be out alone late at night." This was fucked and a lot of guys and girls complained. We were all only a bit annoyed until the assembly about rape. It starts off kinda okay. It was explaining what could be considered rape or sexual assault. All of a sudden the teacher starts playing videos that straight up say women need to wear 7 million layers so that men will not get a boner from your shoulders. We were all shell-shocked and finally someone shouts, "But it was a guy who got raped." The next thing that came out of the teacher's mouth I will never forget. We all know insert name wasn't actually raped. Okay, that teacher got fired 2 months later for accepting bribes from kids for good test results. Had 5th graders wear blackface in a play about civil rights. Our school would do Spirit Week once a year where every day would have a different theme. There were lots of innocent themes like Pajama Day or Wacky Hair Day, but our school decided to also include Gang Day where all the kids dressed up like they were members in a gang. It was pretty fucked up. 8th grade. Got called a Nazi by 3 teachers because I didn't join a charity drive to imprison former Nazis. I didn't even know who the Nazis were back then. A year 11 student locked every single year 7 inside the Astrofield and filmed it, putting it on Snapchat. We had a day during Spirit Week where a freshman was assigned to a senior. It was mostly the freshmen wearing funny clothes or doing something stupid but harmless. My senior year a few people took it too far. It was cancelled after that. It was called Slave Day. It was 2000. We had an annual Slave Day where the 6th formers would stand up in pairs in front of the rest of the school and would get auctioned off for money. We'd have to do whatever the buyers wanted us to do for the day. Let a pedophile continue to work there and groom his students. If you did something wrong and were given detention, you could opt for wax instead. The vice principal would spank you with a paddle 10 times. No letter home, no parental permission form. I shit you not, and this was not that long ago. Schools should not be hitting children. Alright, this isn't that fucked up compared to a lot of these other comments, but when I was in high school who had this one speaker come to talk about bullying who was either the dad or uncle of one of the kids shoot at Columbine, and like half of the kids in the auditorium laughed and talked during his presentation. If it was anyone else talking about a different subject, it would have been whatever. But given the nature of what he was talking about, I found it especially fucked up at the time. Also, there was one teacher who was really into the whole Coney 2012 thing and made us watch the documentary in class the day before the creator of the documentary was caught jacking off in San Francisco. The teacher never brought up Coney 2012 again. Covered up a 12-year-old getting sexually assaulted by a teacher and track coach who apparently had assaulted other girls before. The school just completely covered it up every time. They weren't reporting it to the Title IX coordinator, right? And someone had been doing it on purpose. The police got involved this time, and said there wasn't enough evidence. The girl's dad leaked the name of a teacher on Facebook. This last incident happened in December and I'm surprised there hasn't been a riot. That school has a lot of parents with guns who would absolutely use them to protect their children. That was at my middle school, and my high school also has a teacher that everyone knows is a little too interested in the freshman girls. The school doesn't do anything about it. They cover up a lot of stuff and allow a lot of stuff that they really shouldn't. I hated that place so much. I switched schools for my junior and senior year, and since I live in another town I refuse to go into the town the district's in unless I'm just driving through. Just those poor girls. He taught 7th graders, so around 12-13. Literal children. I hope some justice gets served, but I hope even more that the girls are going to be okay. Not really messed up, but kinda answers the question. The high school I went to tried to ban couches for no reason, meaning that teachers had to have their couches out of their classroom or risk getting fired. So 99 of the students got said couches and put them on the quad of the high school and did a sit-in. Principal gave in 2 hours later. Another story: the main track and field coach wouldn't let the school's best thrower rejoin the team because he didn't like him. So the throwers wrote a letter basically saying that if he won't let their teammate compete, then they'll quit and the high school would have no throwers for the season. As far as I know, that scumbag coach is still there. Had me there for 4 years and taught me a bunch of shit I don't use instead of any life skill other than being somewhere I don't want to be for 8 hours 5 days a week. Covered up a murder. The school district decided to release new teachers for tenured ones. We walked out and called the news to let them know. When I was 5, one of the girls who didn't bring her swimming costume got wet from the pool splash. The teacher decided to change her out in the open, rather than taking her into the changing room. She had her class, 5, 6 and 7-year-olds, crowd around the girl to protect her from the wind. We saw everything, I mean lips, etc. I remember at the time wondering why we were doing this. Female teacher, BTW, this was back in 1982, I never heard anything happening because of this. Let a rapist continue to walk the halls. Provide a lot of funding to the football team, which only won 3 games in 3 years. I was in orchestra and we won almost every competition we participated in, but the school didn't fund a cent, we paid out of pocket. I will never understand why the football team needed 3 jersey designs, entire wardrobes of team merch, etc. just to lose every Friday night. They turned a blind eye when we beat up other schools' students. Suspended students for avoiding attending church. It was a Catholic school and students would often try to sneak away to avoid going. Teachers would take pictures of students off school property and use it as evidence to suspend students. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's really messed up. Charge more than the local universities. They gave special treatment to smarter rich kids. I went to middle school in Chicago where kids of all ages, more specifically in the age group that would be in 5th grade, would take jokes too far. Maybe a year or 2 ago, that school got a B0MB threat and SWAT and police were called and most kids were absent or out of school. BC they had heard ab the threat days 2 hours before. Anyways, I heard from my brother who still went to the school that the person who made the threat was a 6th grader and they got escorted out that same day by police. Neutral face. Our school mascot was an indigenous person. First quarter, we have a pep rally. The cheerleaders come out and most are white except for 2, but that's not the worst part. A few minutes later, we are all quiet to see the mascot. Once he comes out, the mascot is white. Like whiter than the walls. My friends and I were horrified, especially for the fact we were all POC and was scared of the mascot since the mascot also passed by our 7th period classes while we were working, and worst part was I was sitting right next to the door and my friend points and said, "Mako, beside you." Also for the fact that all the principals were racist except for the 6th grade and had children that also went to our school and were homophobic, bullying everyone yet did nothing about it. They were only nice to me and my friends because it was BHM, which I wasn't, only my friends. They removed masks and then added them back. Abstinence only sex education. It is complete BS. Telling kids and teens condoms don't work doesn't stop teenagers from having sex. It stops them from using condoms when they have sex. In my middle school there was a teacher who got with one of his students. He was in his 40s, she was 14. The age of consent here is 14 and parents were okay with it and allowed it. The school never did anything. They married when she finished school and are still together. He's still teaching teenagers. The whole thing makes me want to vomit. Convincing adolescents that it's a good idea to spend $35,331 average tuition in US 2022 per year at a 4-year collegiate institution regardless of your concerns of having no idea what you want to do with your life, let alone what you want to study, because, you needn't worry, you will figure it out. X200B also, forcing us to learn cursive and not to rely on calculators to do your arithmetic. There was a teacher who dressed up as Marie Laveau Voodoo Queen for Halloween and gave her students dog treats if they got a question right. She also cut a Native American student's hair and an African American kid's lock off in front of the class. This happened all in one day. Refused to celebrate Pride Month because that is the fuck does that make sense? We couldn't go to the bathrooms during class and we have only 5 minutes to get to our next class's massive school BTW. It lasted 2.5 days. Middle school there was a shit tons of mold and kids were getting sick, yet they kept the school open for as long as they could. Elementary school, they took away the playground and renovated the school and took away the basketball court by placing a clinic over it. It took 2 years to get a playground back and we had to go door to door selling shit to get it back. Decided to treat neurodiversity by teaching kids to never say no, ever. Compliance drills and all. Let me graduate. Hiring a teacher that is possibly a pedophile. It was never actually confirmed if he is or not, but all the students are at least most of them are pretty sure he is. Ignore bullying. Hire terrible staff and doesn't teach much. Isolate the victims and let the bullies run free. This was many years ago. My elementary school allowed students to poke and prod at me whenever they wanted, but when I reacted I was suspended or given a behavior referral. One student, a full-time bully of mine, walked up to me and punched me in the face, and my first reaction was to punch him back. Keep in mind this was learned behavior on my part. The school called me down later that day and told me I was being suspended for attacking another stupid unprovoked. My mom complained to the school and made them look at the camera footage before they did anything. They saw what the kid had done and that the attack was my reaction to being hit first. Even with this proof, the school decided to delete the footage just from the attack and pretend that it was my fault. They even added to my suspension. High school 1975. Several parents tried to ban a bunch of books. Standard stuff, biology and evolution. I particularly remember the school newspaper cover story about banning Desmond Morris's The Naked Ape. Good thing that is not happening anymore. Oh wait. Never mind, banned book. Shoved their political views down our throats. Had a Catholic brother like a priest that turned out to be sexually abusing young boys in the 70s and maybe more onwards. He was my math teacher in 7th grade. He was held a hero until after his death, when the abuse was revealed. The school never took the responsibility to condemn him and still have memorabilia of his time as a coach hanging up on school grounds, even with a viewing stand named after him. They have never acknowledged it. I guess the school's prestigious sporting history is better than making amends for the sexual abuse. Some kids from the football team were caught doing blackface and were easily recognizable from their video. Nothing happened to them. In an assembly, the theater kids walked out to a sneak peek of the show coming up and kids threw water bottles at them. School did nothing. Also, the football team sucked. Sell a small pencil for $20 $80 I think. Suspend my friends for going into the girls' bathroom even though my friends thought it was the boys' one. Boys can have long hair and they can't wear shorts. Carry On and Jody, the troublemakers, were chasing each other throwing pencils and one landed in the teacher's eye and the teacher was rolling around on the floor screaming in pain. The police came and we had to sign witness statements. Each year they did a prank on freshmen where they blindfolded them in front of the cheerleaders telling them they would get a kiss, and then replaced each cheerleader with the freshman boys' respective mothers. This went on for years, with a quick peck on the lip or cheek, but one mother decided to start full-blown making out with her son, hands all over each other. Safe to say they issued a public apology and no longer do that. I really wonder how the dinner table conversation between that boy and his mother went later that day. Held a Second Amendment rally on the anniversary of a school shooting.